If you've built your business on one-on-one containers and group coaching programs, lean in because in this video, I'm going to show you how to turn your one-on-one and your group work into a corporate contract. Now, listen, I know many of you might be saying things like, I've never even been in corporate before. I've been an entrepreneur all my life, so I don't even know what the corporate space looks like. And I've built this over here. I don't know how it's going to fit into the box of what corporate needs. Maybe you've been burned from your corporate space and you've been in there before and you've been stressed out and burnt out, and anything that looks like corporate gives you a red flag. I want to break this down to you for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're not going back to corporate as an employee, you're going back as the boss. You are running the show. You are there as a trusted advisor and not as an employee. So that's the first thing. And the other thing is, corporations actually need people like you with innovative ideas, innovative approaches, thought leadership that can help them move faster. A lot of times I hear people saying, well, corporations already have a department that does what I need to do. And yes, while that is true, coming from someone who worked in a multi-billion-dollar organization with hundreds of thousands of employees and locations all over the place, we still hired out for particular needs that we had as a team because that was easier than going through the corporate red tape. So I want to make sure to give you that awakening so that whatever is swirling around in your head, you can understand that you today, the things that you've built, it doesn't require more time, doesn't require more talent, it doesn't require more complex funnels. You can take what you have and turn it into a contract. Okay, so you're in. Let's get into how this works in particular. So when it comes to your one-on-one or your group programs, you already have a promised outcome, right, of what the individual entrepreneur or small business is going to expect by working with you, right? The interesting thing about translating your expertise, which is one of the first things that I do when I start with my clients to show them how they can take that same concept and just shift the wording around it into a corporate context. The thing to remember is that these are individuals as well inside of an organization. The only difference is you have to map whatever it is that you're offering to the overall needs of the company at large. And that sounds fancy, but it's not. It just means that, as I've said in previous videos, companies or previous trainings, whatever you've attended, companies pay to make more money or spend less money to save more money. So with that being said, you have to make sure that you understand that. The same way you understand why individuals buy, it's a little bit more emotional based, and you really have to do a bit more of mindset with individuals, but with corporate, it's very black and white. Is this going to move our bottom line forward or not? Which is how most businesses do think. And so when it comes to even some of the softer things like, relationships, I've talked to people who are, in fitness spaces or more softer like mindset or soft skills is what we would call it in a corporate context. But those type of things, they absolutely can sell. What you have to know is, how does that tie into the bigger picture? So one of the things that I typically do, I have just knowledge off the dome that I share because of my experience in this, but I always teach people to go and understand how to look for the information themselves. And so what I'll say is, do some research on the numbers around your space. If you are a stress or burnout expert, like my current client, for example, my question to you is, all right, how much are companies losing because of this? And of course, it's not black and white like stress causes this, but you think about all the things that come underneath stress that relate to the employee experience. Things like showing up late to work, calling out of work, not being as productive, going out on medical leave because of stress related symptoms, moving to another job, another company because of the stress. The morale, how are they bringing down the team morale because of the impression that they currently have? All those things are costs, because when people move or when productivity is down, that translates to the bottom line. So you want to start to embody language like that in everything that you're offering to corporations. How does it tie there, and what is the big numbers? They know, especially if you're talking to the right person, what that means for them as an organization, but you're showing them that you know the greater cost of it and showing them what the solution is, most importantly, to that. Now, Keep in mind that organizations have so many different teams, layers, all the things. So you're not going to solve all the problems with your solution. They're not looking for you to do that. You need to zone in on what is your specific thing that's going to contribute to the overall solution to the problem. And it's got to be the thing that's pain or the most pain of that organization at the time. And so that's why the discovery call is so important, and the questions that you ask are so important, because you need to understand for that team and for that part of the organization, what is the greatest pain point? And whatever you position as a solution has to be tied to that, and also has to be backed by that bottom line data, okay? So the translation is going to be important. Let me give you an example of this, because I feel like I used a lot of words, but if you get me, right? You understand how companies would make a decision on whether they want to move forward or not. So we get that. Example would be of your one-on-one or your group coaching, for example. I'm going to do a sales example because that's my background and that's super easy to just talk about. But say you do some type of business coaching or sales coaching or marketing coaching. Easy. Turning it into a corporate contract. You're helping the companies make more money. So what you would need to be focused on is how you teach sales teams how to do better social selling. I talked with a few people about turning their offers into this. If you're helping people master social media and learn the concept of social selling, companies are way behind on that. Like, they're catching up, but they're still quite behind. So if you can show them how to use platforms like LinkedIn now, I don't know about Threads. That might be one that people are, companies might be willing to dip their toe into. But again, you got to know your audience. They years behind. So you got to catch them up. You know more in your particular space than they do. And there are these large companies making billions of dollars. And sometimes they don't know even the smallest things that could really boost their business. I digress. Anyway, so if you can teach those social selling concepts to their salespeople, all of a sudden, where you're working one-on-one or even with a group container, each individual there only has a certain amount that they're likely going to, what's the best way to say this? That they're going to, the ROI that they're going to receive. That's the easiest way to say it. Each person in those programs, the ROI is to a certain degree, right? When you go inside of organization, salespeople literally bring in, depending on the type of company, I could say definitely in tech, they bring in millions of dollars a year, sometimes multiple millions, just one salesperson. So I give that example because if you can give some social selling tips to them and the type of deals that they're running on a daily basis, all of a sudden it's not just, oh, how do I add, an extra $10,000 or how do I have a $50,000 month? Like, that's low stuff for a salesperson inside of a contract or inside of a company. They're talking about, how do I add another $1 million to this part of the business? If you can teach them the tactics to do that, your value is astronomical. If you can get a room of 30 of them and teach them the same concepts, do you see? I hope you're seeing the difference in your value using the same exact strategies that you teach in these one-on-one containers, now placing them into an organization where the sales, the strategy, and also the sophistication is a lot higher. So the way that they implement is going to yield better results, way better, out of the roof. So what you need to do, and I don't want to get too nerded out on this, let me zone back in. So what you need to think about is understanding how what you do today can benefit in a larger context. And that's where you need to be selling. So whether it's sales teams, whether it's marketing teams, whether it's HR teams, those same concepts that you're teaching to one or a small group, position them with the ones who can actually take it and go even further with it and only need the one thing. This is something else that I want to point out to you. Most times when you're developing these one-on-one or group containers, you got to go from end to end. Of course you get zoned in on your expertise, but you got to have your mindset stuff in there. You got to, have these different things to help them get the result that are not outside of your scope. It's just a part of what it takes to work with an individual. Corporations don't need that. They literally need the one thing, the one little distinction, the one shift that's going to take them astronomically in terms of their bottom line or their revenue. Just the one shift. So I also want to submit to you that when you make this shift from, or not even a shift because you're still doing your one-on-one and group work, when you also add the corporate contracts to your business model, you'll also find that you're doing half or maybe even 1/3 of the work that you would be doing with your one-on-one and group stuff and getting paid, 5-10 times more just for the expertise that you have. So it becomes less about how do you be the best, marketer, or how do you be the best coach and all of that, to really just how do you be the best expert and just get paid to do that and not jump around the hoops, in order to do so. So while I said both sides of the business is important, I don't want you to sleep on the corporate side for reasons of thinking it's going to take more time, or you got to repackage something new, or you have to go through these complex processes. Use what you already have, turn it into a different language and put it in a different space, and then all of a sudden it changes everything. I'm going to do another video on how to land contracts without any past performance, which is AKA testimonials of doing other contracts before, right? So I know that's something that could also hinder people from getting started. Well, if I've only done one-on-one and group and I haven't had corporate contracts before, how can I demonstrate what they call past performance? And there's so many different ways that you can do that. And I feel that it should be its own video. So drop a comment below if you want to understand how to get your first contract without having any contracts in the past and how to demonstrate that past performance. Let me know if I should be doing that so I can walk you through some ways that you likely already have past performance. You just haven't thought about it or positioned it well. All right. So with that being said, wrapping up what we talked about today is super important. If you can understand how to translate what you're doing in these one-on-one group offers, strip away the niche down, oh, it's got to be from this to this, and it's got to be this particular person. That is great, and that works in this space. However, now you need to learn how to speak about it in a larger context. How does this actually affect corporations? How does this affect universities, school systems, nonprofits, government entities? And that language, along with the backed data is going to help you be able to translate that when you're in conversation. So these people can begin to hear their language repeated back to them, kind of like a dog whistle. If you come to me and you go to these events, a lot of people want to get access, but they don't know the language. It's not enough to just get in the room, but can you actually have a real conversation where you're not just saying, yeah, I help entrepreneurs be able to live free and live in purpose and do these things. That's wonderful. And they're going to smile at you and say, that's amazing. But they're not going to think, oh, this is the thing that we have budget for. Oh, we were just talking about this at the staff meeting. We need to bring her in to do this. You've got to do that languaging. You have to do that positioning, even with the way that you speak in person, for them to understand you're one of the people they need to be talking to, and not just talk to, that they need to hire. That's important. The other thing is going to be to understand where are the spaces where the individuals can get the largest ROI. So I gave the sales example, but even when it comes to like stress and burnout in leadership, or stress and burnout in corporations, the executive leadership, those are going to be the people they don't want to lose. So if you can package so we talked about one-on-one to corporate contracts, but a corporate contract could also be working one-on-one with an executive through your stress and burnout framework, through your leadership framework, through your whatever it is, personal development that leads into their professional development. The important thing is you just have to make sure, how does this tie to that executive staying at the company and being more productive? That's the language that you have to start to learn to embody and speak. So you could have those offers where the company is paying you just to do that. I actually know someone who got hired inside of an organization to coach like 5 different middle managers, or second line managers, I would call them. And the company is paying for those individuals to be coached. So if that's not what you already doing every single day and what you're selling your, packages for to work with people, I don't know what is. All right. So if this has been something that got your wheels turning and you starting to think, okay, how does this make sense in my business? How can I take my one-on-one and group stuff and turn it into a corporate contract? I've got something juicy for you. I want you to DM me on Instagram and just say, teach me. I'll know exactly what you're talking about. And I'm going to break down a personalized preview on how you can turn your one-on-one group offers into a corporate contract. I'm going to show you the process, right? So I'm not going to be doing these forever. So if you DM me, teach me, and you get something back, you might have missed it. So if you're hearing this now, jump on this so that I can show you exactly how you can make this happen in your business right now. And you don't need more time, more complex systems, more talent, none of that. You just need to know the language shifts that I talked about today, but how to apply it to your business is really what's going to take you to the next level. So go ahead and shoot me that DM. I'll be looking out for it. I'm super excited to do this with a handful of people, and I will see you all on the next video.